church management.
Dimela makaitse. Le kae? Re teng. Ke rata ho leboha ho bona moruti Modise le moruti Lephata ba le teng. And ke rata ho leboha the principal, the management of the school, just to afford me an opportunity to come and share with you and interact with you about church management. But just before I start, I won't speak Matthew or whatever. All right. What I'm going to share with you is not a theory, but I'm going to share with you practical examples. It will be theory plus praxis, because in the main, this is what made me to be who I am. But above all, this is what made Tshwane to be what Tshwane is today. But let me start by making this introduction. I'm the Reverend within the United Reformed Church in Southern Africa, Tshwane congregation. I've been in this congregation almost 35 years. More than Mugabe in making. But above all, every year or every day, there are new things to learn. And for the period of 35 years, I was never bored to be minister. Why? Because if you have put systems in place, you will enjoy the ministry. And the ministry will then look well after you. But if you don't have systems in place, the unfortunate part of it is, let me put it this way. For 35 years of my ministry, I was never on the pulpit telling congregants, I've never uttered that word. And there is a reason why I did not do that. It is because my responsibility is to teach the congregants. And once they understand the gospel and they are converted, giving is no longer a problem. The problem emanates from us forcing them to give. And many a times we talk about giving the biblical way. There is nothing like giving the biblical way. The Bible puts it very clear. It's about the 10th of your income. And the 10th of your income must start with you first as a leader. If you don't, you will not be able to implement that, especially to the governing body, the leadership, the servant leaders. And I think Professor Mwedisa alluded to the fact that Judge Khan said it's a meeting. And allow me to talk about servant leader. I'm a servant. Sometimes these titles elevate us to a point where we become untouchable and where we become so much highly elevated that even our congregants cannot even approach us. We are too smart, too big, and I don't know, maybe even proud. But humility, it will cost you nothing just to be humble and to be a servant. In my congregation, I call them all servant leaders. But we know we've got deacons and elders. But I want us to appear before the congregation as servants. Because sometimes we don't need. and ultimately are more a member than others. Some are more equal than others. So we have to ensure that we manage this whole process. Now, allow me to talk about church management. From my perspective, and from the perspective of what I've learned, over and above my qualification as Muruti, having studied theology, I had to break the barrier, explore education, explore human resource, so that I can understand organizational cultures and begin to implement some of these theories, and to make sure that at the end of the day, the congregation is well managed. Now, when we talk about church, how does a church differ from other organizations in terms of management? Can we isolate the church from other organizations that are governed or that are managed? What then informs us to put the church separate from the principles of management and governance? So I want to engage you, but because of time constraint, allow me just to take you through, and we are going to interact. I've got some few slides, but I'm not going to, I'm going to just run them over. But I want to take you on board just to understand what management is all about. If you look at this person, he's a jack of all trades, master of none. You are the treasurer, you are the secretary, you are everything in the church. When it comes to announcement, it's you. When it comes to monies, you are authorizing even the expenditure of the church, whatever. So at the end of the day, I'm saying, is there a problem? But below that, I'm saying, maybe it's not a problem, there are challenges. I've named just but few, but this is not all. If you look at some of the bullets, I said, not enough money to fund all our needs. That is true. Sometimes ministers are not getting paid. They're told that there is no money. And second bullet, limited staffing in the church. Of course, you can't be an administrator. You have to appoint an administrator. But this depends on the resources of the congregation. And over and above that, as Muruti, you need a personal assistant. Someone who will ensure that he or she runs your program and your diary. Why go corporate and all these things, Maramuke? We just want to limit ourselves. Hey, Muruti. No. But all these things depend on the resources. Whether you've got an administrator who will ensure that the admin of the church is not compromised. And you've got somebody who is managing your diary, who will always remind you. People will definitely call him or her, but he or she will ensure that you are updated. And by so doing, you will service your congregants around the clock. And let me tell you, when you service them around the clock, money will just pump in. Money is all about service delivery. It's not all about who you are, how capable you are, and all the things. Planning and management for growth and other changes. Just treated as different from other mainstream organizations, and that's what kills us. Because at the end of the day, anything that has got to do with church, it's just below par. You know, even if you are the CEO at your workplace, you want to give a substandard in the congregation. Gone are those days that the church deserves the best. And when the church deserves the best, you have got the best in your congregation. And you have to tap those talents. You must tap that talent. You know, when you've got people who are expertise, who are experts in your congregation, whatever contribution that they make, they elevate you. It's not about you. It's about ensuring that the church runs. But many times we centralize everything around ourselves. And at the end of the day, you are so burnt out that even after retirement, you can't even survive. Because there's too much. You must retire smart and retire very young. And begin to run other businesses over and above what you can. But leave your legacy in your congregation. Non-inclusive management, where you take a church and you put it in your pocket. Putting a church in the pocket is the most dangerous part, because you're owning it yourself. And competitions. Competitions, we compete among ourselves, but over and above. We must face the fact. In our country, these foreign prophets and whoever, don't want to mention them by name, but the bottom line is that our members find themselves there. Whether you like it or not, there are buses that are busing people to Pretoria Showground. We can deny it, but the bottom line is a fact. And when they come to a church, but look like a 2 rand, but go bushiri, but manaka 700 rand or 7,000 rand. What is it that we cannot make it right to ensure that our members become, committed to the cause? Maybe sometimes we become too casual about the church. And once we become casual, and members will also be casual about their offerings and their giving. So those are some of the things that I'm just trying to express there. And let's just quickly. Church management is an important idea that brings together the spiritual and the organizational. You are managing a church where the emphasis is all about spirituality. But the church remains an organization, whether we like it or not. In the spiritual sense, you are serving the Lord while serving your community. Now, maybe that I'm using the word community, which was alluded to Professor Wilise. There are funds to allocate. Remember, for you to manage this organization, you need money. There are funds to allocate, especially when it comes to software and systems. You must have the software in the congregation that will ensure that we are not a church of the 70s. We are a church in this era in which we find ourselves. There are funds also to allocate, to set up people to manage and infrastructure, and above all, maintenance of the church. Those are the things that I'm just trying to bring to your attention. Now, there are key areas of church management. I'm not going to discuss them all, but by God's grace, I managed to develop some manuals when it comes to this. The first one up there is about church governance. Church governance. And number 2, it's about church strategy. The General Synod has got a strategy. But the only way in which we're going to realize that strategy, we have to bring that strategy down to regional synod, to presbyteries, and to the congregations. It doesn't matter how smart our strategy can be, but if it doesn't reach congregants right down there, it becomes a document that has got no teeth to bite. So in other words, you must ensure that there is a strategy in order to run the church. And management performance. You have to manage performance. Fortunately enough, my education, I'm in the Directorate of Performance Management Systems. My focus is purely performance. We're talking about performance bonus as ministers. But how do you arrive at that bonus if you don't have systems in place? You're going to demand it and they won't give it to you. But you must produce evidence. Evidence must speak louder. You speak less. Do what is expected of you. And at the end of the day, you will be able to earn that. And we also have to talk about financial management. How do we manage our resources? That is very, very critical. So, and we must also manage church assets, or what you call facilities management, and stakeholder management, and risk management. Those are what we call the key areas church management. You cannot talk church management without referring to all those areas. So let me run them through quickly. I'm not going to cover them all. I'm just going to give you some synopsis. Let me start with church governance. What is it? What do we mean by church governance? How an organization organizes itself to carry out its vision and mission effectively, efficiently, and in harmony with its values. Remember, as a church, you must have values. Values are a glue to bring us together. If you don't have values that you have developed, the values of my church is I search. I stand for integrity. I stand for servitude. I can unpack them all. I search. That's an acronym that I've given to this. It's a glue. Because if you don't have a glue that unites you, remember as individuals, because there is no glue. There are no values. Even in the family, there are values that we must adhere to. Why do we have values in our own homes? But when we come to church, we don't have values. So those are the values that I'm referring to. Efficiently and harmony with its values. Embracing inclusivity. Inclusivity and participative management. Don't manage a church all by yourself. You'll die before your actual death. Because you're going to burn out. Whether you like it or not, you are definitely going to burn out. You must afford members a platform to showcase their talents. And once you afford them the opportunity to showcase their talents, I can tell you they will carry you through tough times. And above all, accountability. Accountability is very, very critical. Now, when you talk about governance, it's about promoting the following. Number one is about fairness. When we talk fairness, sometimes we think within the spiritual realm, we don't have fairness. Fairness is critical when it comes to governance. And transparency. Accountability, you must be able to account as a leader. You are the CEO. You are the CEO of this organization. And you must account. And inclusive participation. Then I'll share with you as we interact, what do I mean by this? And how did we arrive at this? Now, if you look at those three key factors of governance, number one is managed transparency. Those chairs simply means there must be people around there. You cannot sit in that boardroom all by yourself. You need people that you will interact with. And that is the meeting, that's the church council, where the 7 leaders together with yourself meet there. Number two is to strengthen trust. You know, you have to ensure that the congregants trust you. And trust is key towards a successful church. If they don't trust you, because everything is all about yourself, or treasurer, or secretary, or everything, they will never trust you with their resources. Because so don't we just smart? And it's smart without you pressing the button. Let them press the button. And you smile. Grow and increase value. So that's all about the 3 factors of governance. But it's not all, but I mean, this is what I'm sharing with you. Now, this is a pot wherein I've just thrown in some few things in terms of governance. You can see that it's a welfare fund. Welfare, you have to look well after those who are unemployed in the church. When you make money, plow back. Make sure that there is food on the table of each and every. Make sure that even those who are unemployed, out of the resources that you have, there is a percentage that will be able to serve in terms of the welfare. A church without welfare, I mean, governance, congregants, monitoring performance, direction, strategy, control, policies. You have to develop policies. When we come to financial management, we'll also talk about procurement policy. How do you procure as a church? And all you can see them. I'll make this what we call available. Now it's a pyramid. When you talk about church governance structure, it's sort of a pyramid. But who is on top there? Are the shareholders, kiputeo, congregants. Those are the shareholders. Those are the people who have got money. Those are the people who will make you or break you. And again, when you look at the bottom part, you've got the CEO or Muruti or executive leader, and on the right-hand side, you've got Lokhotla, or the board of directors, or servant leaders. I'm correcting myself. Okay, but there must be a collaboration between yourself as a leader and the servant leaders, so that together you are able to report back to shareholders. Because shareholders must always be kept abreast about whatever that is happening in the congregation. So this is just a structure, collaboration at the bottom. You can see those arrows. So Horlu, as an executive, as an accounting officer, you owe it to the congregation. But after you shall have collaborated with the council, how we go put your fella? I mean, come on, not without having collaborated with the people that you are working with. I indicated that I'm going to be a bit faster. Now, when you look at this, now the first thing is the congregation. It's a congregation. Those are the shareholders. That is the congregation. Now, the congregation will then elect the church council. Will then elect, well, church council within the context of our understanding, as of now, prior to. Okay, so now we change again. All right, okay. Now, the church council has to define the ends. What do you mean by defining the ends? You must have a vision. You know, if you don't have a vision, you have to develop that vision, because you have to drive your strategy towards what you want to achieve. So, the ends are very, very, very critical in this regard. Then, from there, the church council will then call a minister to come and serve in the congregation. Now, that is where I'm saying, appoint the minister or call the minister to chair the church council as the CEO or the managing director. So that is where you come in. Now, you've got the committees, and the ministries here just indicated the committee. You've got ministries. And within the ministry, like for example, under service and witness ministry, we have got, the committees that are ensuring that people are eating. We have got the health professionals who must ensure that, we maintain the good health in the congregation and so on. I'm just reading their committees so that, you are. Then we've got staff. I talked about the administrator or whoever, and other cleaners within the congregation, because the church must be clean. If you don't have people that are cleaning the church, you can't be a minister and go for long or go corporate. Then we must also have volunteers. What do I mean by volunteers? Within the congregation, I've got CEOs of the companies. Why should a CEO sit at the back there without tapping the talent and bring this person? Even this person is not in the church council, but bring those expertise within the congregation, so that at the end of the day, we all plow back to shareholders. I leave no stone unturned to any professional in the church. Somebody was saying, maybe it's because your church has got too many people. It's in the township. When I arrive in the church, Mulashe Mukade think you know him. He was a treasurer of our church. And I know very well, there was a month where he said to me, Oscar, or catch a check because it will bounce. Where are all these professionals in the church? I mean, the CEOs, there are big people, and I said, from now henceforth, and I knew this one, well, it's CEO of this company, this one, and I visited them in their homes. And I said, what can you offer? What can you offer? You're a member of this church. I don't want to see you being tapped by another congregation or some of the charismatic congregations, telling them how to manage, how to do all things. Bring those expertise inside. You know, let me tell you, immediately when you do that, when you open a platform for people to showcase their talent, they will pump money. How to go about blindfolder like what these charismatic organizations are doing? Just simply afford them the opportunity. Or run a huge company. And his company is so profitable. What's that? I tell them all, where someone could just at the end of the month answer offering a 200,000. It's my offering. Because we're in the billions. Sorry. So you have to be very, 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 then organize the best to achieve the ends. And from then, what is important? Accountability. You know, when people give, you must account. How are you spending their money? All right, let me quickly move from this one.
Yeah.
Now, governance structures, corporate governance, but it's about the congregation. Then down to the church council. Well, I just put finance or and the executive council. And remember, when it comes to finance, it's about the external audit. Your books must be audited. And once they are audited, and we are striving, you must not get a qualified audit, unqualified audit, so that to motivate the people. Then the executive, and down there we've got the ministries that must ensure that at the end of the day we deliver. Okay? Now you've got a keynote. Well, just pardon me for using the word pastor. You know, I was just looking at the definition of a pastor, then I used the word pastor, reverend. But for convenience, I'm using this. Because this presentation, I'm not only doing it, and I charge them money. They must pay. So these are some of the areas. A pastor is a servant and a leader at the same time. You are a servant leader. Number two, a pastor is not a king and a despot ruler. You're not a king where you put the church in your pocket. And a pastor is a collaborative leader. You collaborate. You must make sure that you collaborate with others. And a pastor leads the church in terms of the vision and the strategy. He is a visionary bearer. And then lastly, a pastor is fully accountable. But everybody charismatic churches have accounted to anybody. Churches are all, because they own the church. We are not like them. We are a structured church. And everything that we do must be in such a way that at the end of the day, we will be able to say, this is who we are. Now, this also is a keynote for the council, for the servant leaders combined together. They also define the meaning, the ends, and which is the mission, then set the executive limitation of the policies, and manage the council executive relationships, and consistently evaluate performance and continuous improvement. Bakaitsu, let me put it very clear. I monitor performance of each and every ministry. All those ministries are coordinated. And each and every coordinator has got a laptop. Our church council agenda is not informed by Texake and many other things. You have to tell us, for what you promised, the targets that you have set, deliver. Have you delivered or you didn't deliver? We are not discussing the we don't have time for that. It's about service delivery. It's about service delivery. We must ensure that at the end of the day we do justice in terms of ensuring everything. Now, a strategy means something to many others. And I've just come up with some authors there, Rocher, who says our strategy architect is our roadmap that we use every day in planning and operational activities at all levels. We get these things, we study them, but we don't implement them. But I think about it, we are good theorists. We can tell a story, but you cannot implement that story more yourself. So, my colleague bullet number 2, it is a sustainable process by Nokia through which we can renew ourselves. Then Gary Hammer, a company needs a view about the future and blueprint for getting there. You need a blueprint. Without a blueprint, you won't get anywhere. You'll just be circling around. Key questions to answer when thinking about strategy. When you want to put a strategy in your congregation. Bullet number 1, do you know where your church is going? You know, sometimes, how I mean, you must have a vision. Do you know where the church is going? What will your church be like in 3 years' time? It can't be the same. Yesterday, they could not afford paying me a check, and I wouldn't stand on the pulpit and say, Halim Badal. It's my duty and my responsibility to go down and begin to tap the talent. Today is not a struggle. They know what to do because you deliver. Will you be a few steps closer to realizing a vision after 3 years, or will you still be the same? For the period of 34 years in that congregation, we started from 0. Had it not because of COVID, we would have started building our auditorium. Because people are just flocking in. Because people like accountability. When you account, when you take them on board, you don't take them for granted, they will come in. And the church could no longer accommodate us. And that's my vision when I retire. I want to leave behind a legacy. That will say, this is what I have achieved. Now there's a saying of Martin Luther King Jr. once said, if you are called to be a street sweeper, sweep in such a way that one day, when the host of heaven and earth come walk past that street, will stop, pause and say, here lived a great sweeper. A mere sweeper. But people must be able to tell a story about you. What is it that you've achieved? Oscar legacy, bankruptcy, and all those things. It can't. It can't. Then the last bullet. One sure way to import your church future is to develop a church strategic plan. Whether we like it or not, you will never succeed. Then key areas of the strategy. What is it that we mean by a strategy? Number 1 is a vision. It's a strategy. What an organization would like to achieve. Then number 2 is a strategy. Take servant leaders out for a strategic plan. Sit down plan. You will never deliver a state of the church address without a strategy. Some colleagues were asking me, how do you do it? And I want to do it. I said, whoa. Do you have a plan? No. No. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Where do you want to be in 3 years' time? How do you measure your performance when you are moving towards that? And once you are back from the strategy, inform the congregation about your targets. Are you on track? And the reason why sometimes, you know, once you reach bottom, you become a nuisance. And once you become a nuisance, unfortunately, church order A late apply. One way we bundle us. And it's a strategy putting plans into effect and assessment of the outcome. There is one area that I had to work on it. When I empowered myself, Kako study moderation, facilitation, and outcome-based approach. Outcome-based approach. It can't just be an approach without an outcome. So there we talk about the outcome. All right, now that is the strategy implementation process. Now if you look at the end, that's how it is. We're talking about the mission or the vision on top there, then the vision and the values. I talked about the values. And the second part is about this. You cannot set up a strategy without a vision. Because the strategy must be aligned to your vision. If you don't have a vision, you cannot put a strategy in place. So vision is critical, and the mission and the values. Because those are the things that will make sure that at the end of the day, that you can develop a strategy. Then from there you come to a strategic implementation. Any strategy that is in a drawer of your office is useless. It's not implementable. So it must be implementable because you have to come up with an implementation plan. And you have to come up with your key objectives from the strategy. We've got a 6-point plan. Number 1 is to grow the congregation. Number 2 is to ensure in numbers and even it is to grow our income and all the things. So every strategy must be aligned to our objectives. But how are you going to go about achieving those objectives that you've put for yourself? And accountabilities and the deadlines. You know, when you come from the strategy, you must come back with targets. CYM, they've got a strategy that is aligned to the strategy of Tswana. All the activities are aligned. CWM aligned. CMM aligned. Everyone is aligned. There is not even a single organ that operates in isolation. That is why when we have the church council, all these ministries, together with the coordinator of congregational, they come in. And from the strategic plan, when you go for strategic plan, we include them because you cannot strategize without all stakeholders. And when we leave that place for a weekend, retlakadi targets. And Hariago Church Council meeting, our agenda, it's simple and straightforward. Tell us. And you put a skatom potsa mondelenge, utoripota kamlo. How do you account to the target that you have said you're going to achieve? Because we put our targets quarterly. Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. You said in quarter 1 you're going to achieve this. Tell us the reason why you did not achieve. And that is how our church council is structured. No, it's business. It's simply business. And it's focused. And this is just, and the performance monitoring. Maybe it's just to Nopela because I'm going to run this thing very fast. We have got the monitoring and evaluation committee that is independent from the church council. Purely to monitor performance. And they monitor actually in my own office. Because when you put systems in place, they have corporate and other organizations and everybody, renally these systems, but why har tamo kereke? Rebata kongol werk. Hey mudimu arabona mudimu artsebe, hey mudimu batlo be smart. Because you are representing the kingdom. So we've got monitoring and evaluation. Hartlaw Council meeting, the second quarter, the monitoring and evaluation team, which is composed by 2 people. Maybe to share with you, both of them, they are CEOs in their own companies. They are CEOs in their own companies. But they were part of the strategy. So that they know exactly what is it that we have agreed and targeted for. deliver. How because they will tell you what by the end of this court you shall have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How deliver Papa way? How deliver? And how deliver, let me tell you, they will give you performance bonus. Manati fair. And how do you paying? They will feel guilty if they don't give it to you. Over and above the bonus, you will get the 14th check. What's I demand? Yeah. I think again we're different. This is Ux. Because sometimes we compromise ourselves. And at the end of the day, we become a begging church. The first time when I completed, I remember when we were taken to the white church, for my stipend, 1987 when I arrived. And I remember White Domini, who said to me, Domini, I get a white scrapyard. Go there and get that car from the scrapyard. You know what I said? And I was with another colleague. I don't mention the name. I was angry and I said, I'm not a scrap. I'm still young and energetic. I will walk to service my congregation. And I didn't go to the scrapyard. I worked. And I bought my first car, not from the scrapyard, because I'm not a scrap. God has given me the brains to be able to maneuver and make things work. So, now this is the benefit of when you talk about the benefits of the strategy, these are the ones, this is a keynote. Number one, you clarify the vision, mission, and core values. Make the congregation aware of what the guy. If Untipamo and any member of the congregation, what is your vision? Making Christ come alive and active in us unconditionally. We don't limit Christ operating in our lives. He must operate unconditionally. Identify priorities for the church from the strategic plan. Establish clear directions, focuses decision making, enhance communication and teamwork, and increase success. Now let me put you the last part, which is the financial. And I believe all of us are keen to know about this. And as a church leader, you will often find yourself doing something you are not necessarily trained for. I think the big mistake, and of which is still happening in our church today, we give our students very little when it comes to management and governance. We don't have that course designed specifically to ensure that when you come, because how to put you for the first time, and you have to lead. And it is imperative principle that this course must be part of our curriculum to ensure that we equip our ministers. How only well equipped, you know what is the strategy, you can facilitate the strategy, and you'll be able to do your best. And that is where your money is going to come. Okay? And the issue of the budget, I'm told that I've got only 5 minutes. And no program in the MPLA, 1 hour, 15 minutes. And how can they prepare? Okay? Next time, so just to make sure we're on okay, but I'm going to comply, don't worry. Okay, now that's what I'm saying, and we must put the budget in place to ensure that everything, and you must also reflect on the strategy and focus on your what you call. I'm now moving very fast. When it comes to financial management, it's another pot just to throw in everything. And don't forget the annual financial report, audited. Address the congregation, the treasurer. Why now do you see more? You see the reason why sometimes we're caught up is because we're doing things that we're not trained for. You've got the CEA. You've got somebody who is a qualified accountant in the congregation. Because he's an expert in that what you call. Why aren't you? Professor Medis, let me also find out. Now, does it mean that the finances of the church must be managed by the treasurer of the church? That's not saying what Because you've got an inspector, an accountant who's running the company. Why can't you afford this person? The treasurer will collaborate with that person. So that at the end of the day, your finances are lovely, transparent. And at the end of the day, accountability is the key. And that's exactly what we did. And at the end of the day, well, those are some of the income projection, creating a budget. You must have a budget. Without any budget. And regional security, reserving and investing funds, you must have reserves. You cannot just work and manage the debts. Make sure that, and audit the finances and make sure that you present the audited financial. And then, this is just the conclusion. We are saying, this one I just want to read. I think it's a slide because I was just running through. It says church members sometimes think of themselves as shareholders. Not only think about themselves, they are shareholders. They are shareholders because they hold the resources of the church. We pay for this church with our givings and the tithes and everything, and should put our wants or our needs first. Membership has its privileges. Then the two stakeholders are everyone who has a stake in how the business is doing. Every member of the congregation who gives, who investor. It's a shareholder. At the end of the day, how do you an investor? The shares, they are appreciated or they are depreciated. And you want this person to continue giving. It's impossible. In a church, it is crucial to prioritize stakeholders, the congregants. Why do they stop giving? Because they will stop giving. If you don't, run your finances transparently. But to stop, and stop for like it. Great many stakeholders engagement platform. The church announcements, obviously, church conferences, ad hoc participation in task committee, and church project. That is why I said, all the CEOs. Seriously so. And by they're reporting to me, irrespective of their position. Sometimes position in your higher and over this person because this person who understands the newsletters, website, diverse social media offering, celebration of special whatever. I've run through them too, and I didn't dwell much, but in a nutshell, just before I close, the era of talking poverty, a begging church is over. You have it in your hands. You cannot be a begging church all the time, a donor. You are waiting for someone to donate. We are building this auditorium, which is costing us 14 million. And Bongkhone managed to raise 12 million.